Sergio from Student IT Services, and today we will be finishing our Hackintosh build. Okay, so now let's move to the installation. We will need just some kind of USB which is more than 6 gigabytes, well preferably 8. Go to Finder, we can see it's here, it's listed as untitled. We actually need it to be named untitled, but we will reformat using the disk utility. So we have the Kingston Data Traveler erase. We will format it to MAC OS Extended Journal, not encrypted, no nothing else, just leave it as it is like this. Yes, we want to erase everything. The USB key is empty anyway, it's just to use it as an installation device or bootable USB. Okay, so we have this ready, we can close the disk utility and now go to Hackintosh folder, and I created a small create install media txt which is containing a command for the terminal to create a bootable installation key with OSX El Capitan, which is version 10.11.3. It is the newest installer that is available from Apple Store. This installation or the application is was downloaded from Apple Store. So when you just go to the App Store, you can see that when we go to purchase, we have OSX El Capitan. Yeah, we have some errors with downloaded, but I'm pretty sure you will be fine downloading it. And also, if we go back to the Finder and applications, here is app called install OS X El Capitan. So this is all that's needed to actually create the bootable USB. So we copy that, turn on the terminal, paste this command into terminal and hit enter. Now it will ask you for the password. Our password is just simple test, and you will see that it starts erasing disk again. Now you might ask, why did we reformatted the disk anyway? Well, it's because we want to name it as untitled with capital U, which the volume name is used in the command. So the terminal or create install media method will know where to create the bootable device. And yes, now we wait. This is pretty much it at this point. One small point is that this command will be available within a package that will be uploaded to Dropbox folder. You can find this Dropbox folder in the description, so you don't have to Google this command or try to find it out. I also don't have to explain it. Also, we will not go with the Clover bootloader configuration and details, because this will be also available in the Dropbox package. And if you have similar build, you will most probably need to make just small changes that can be figured out by common sense, I guess, or help with Google, or just comment in the video and I will try to reply to every comment with questions. So, okay, now the create install media method is finished. We have bootable USB. Well, as you could see, the video was fast forward. So 1 cup of tea or coffee and a cigarette later, we have it done. So if it will get stuck, well, seemingly stuck while you are going through this process, just leave it be, let it do its thing, and if it will not finish within an hour and a half, then try to restart the process. So just be patient. Now that this is finished, we can quit the terminal, close our txt file with the command, go to Hackintosh folder again, and now we need to install the Clover bootloader. So we open the package. Yes, the security preferences, it is telling us that we cannot open this file because we don't have appropriate security preferences. So we just go to System Preferences, Security and Privacy, and click here Open Anyway, and it will open the Clover EFI bootloader installer. So now we can continue. We change the install location to our USB. Be careful here, because if you will install it to your working MacBook or any Mac OS as it is now, it might have booting issues, and you will probably have to reinstall the Mac OS on your machine. So be careful about this. Just take it patiently and read what you are actually doing. So we continue. We can also customize the setup if we want. We can click drivers 64 because we are using 64-bit architecture. Install driver 64 UEFI, themes or anything. Pretty much at this point we will be replacing the EFI folder inside of EFI partition later in the process anyway. So it does not really matter what you install at this point, because if you will be using our package from the Dropbox folder, you will replace these files that this installer will copy to the USB anyway. So we can pretty much just install it with any further concern. Okay, with the Clover EFI bootloader, we can click close our security and privacy settings, and now what you want to use is the Clover configurator to actually mount the EFI partition. Now here you can see that the Clover configurator can load only the config.plist file, which is currently on the Install OSX El Capitan partition or volume, which is also visible in here. However, this is not what should be concerning us. We have to mount the EFI partition, because the EFI partition will be actually booted from using our UEFI BIOS in our computer. So we check the partition, see that the last is disk 2, and it is our USB key, which is 8 GB big. And the description of the EFI partition is disk 2 S1. So we click mount EFI partition, disk 2 S1. Okay, and now we can see that this green light here shows us that the EFI partition is successfully mounted. If we go back to the Finder, we can see that the EFI partition is visible for us. At this point, if you are not using our package, you should have EFI folder in here. If you will be using our package from the Dropbox folder, you don't necessarily have to have something in here, as I do. And at this point, if you are not using our package, you will not be able to boot from the USB key. So the Clover installation, you either said something wrong, or as maybe I did, or there was some problem or something. You will have to reinstall the Clover EFI bootloader at this point. However, we will be using our package, which was already tested and installed once. So we just copy the whole EFI folder from desktop or from the Hackintosh folder. We place the EFI folder on Install OSX El Capitan partition. So you can just move this to the trash and paste the EFI from desktop. And we will also paste this into the EFI partition. Now with this done, we can close the Finder and get back to the Clover configuration. If we click on Home, with the EFI partition mounted, we can see that at the path EFI Clover config.plist, we can actually see the configuration file for the Clover bootloader. And if we open that, we can quickly skim through all of the patches and everything that was configured for this build. So in the ACPI patches, we have a couple of patches for audio and for the Skylake support and so on. In boot, actually this config file is set with NVIDIA Drive 1 and NV Disable 0, meaning that when we boot from this USB key, we have to set the boot arguments inside of the Clover to NVIDIA Drive 0 and NV Disable 1 as enabled, meaning NV Disable equals 1. This will pretty much force the OS X to load the Visa driver, because there will be no other drivers to load at this point. This is only set up because we already have on our test build installed the web drivers for our NVIDIA card. If you will have any problems, you can actually go to graphics and try to inject NVIDIA. Well, this will resolve in a problem that your graphics card will actually show in the about this Mac or iMac window, but the memory of the graphics card will be 0 megabytes, meaning that the graphics card cannot be initialized properly, but it's still detected, meaning it will the screen will have shutters and any kind of and many kind of problems, meaning that you have to use the web drivers if you are using NVIDIA video card. If you are using Intel video card, there's a different process where you have to map your ports and inject ATI and so on and so on. And if you use the ATI graphics card, so far with this motherboard, the sleep will not be available eventually, or you will have problems with waking up from sleep or actually going into sleep while the screen will shut off, but the CPU will keep running with the fans and so on. Any kind of, well, many kind of problems. So we will stick with the settings that we have in here. In SMBIOS we are using iMac 17.1 option. If you will have any kind of problems with the web drivers enabled, already installed and everything, and you will boot into a black screen, you can change the SMBIOS to either iMac 13.2 or MacBook Pro 3.1 as far as I remember. Be sure to Google that. I'm not sure about the Mac Pro, but the iMac 13.2 is also working. To go with the kernel and text patches, we are using the Apple Graphics device policy, which is also to prevent from booting NVIDIA into a black screen. Then we are extending the USB port limit and also setting the Skylake Intel Accelerator frame buffer, which is also preventing us, even though we are using the NVIDIA, we are still injecting Intel graphics drivers, because if the frame buffer is set to 0, meaning we are not injecting anything, it will actually slow the boot of the machine and might result in some kind of problems, but we're just using this to prevent any possibility of having problems, which by basic user will not be solvable, so our customer don't have to bring the computer back and so on and so on. So and also in SMBIOS, if you open the config.p list on the Windows with Notepad or any kind of text editor on Mac, you will probably have to change the memory slots, the size, frequency, part number, serial. That doesn't really matter. You can come up with something 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, 7, 8, 9 or something like that. It depends actually on what RAM are you using, and I guess the most important part is to select appropriate slots. So the Mac OS can successfully detect the RAMs that you actually installed physically on the motherboard. So I guess that's pretty much fine for the Clover configurator. We have that ready. You can click the Clover configurator and our USB is ready to be booted. So shortly going through the BIOS, we are using beta version F5G. I know there is a newer one, F5H, but F5G is running just fine. And I will also explain why we are actually using the beta BIOS. So just to quickly go through MIT current settings, we can see that the ratio is standard 40, which is 4 GHz on base clocking, and 42 on turbo boost. We can see that we have the 32 GB RAMs. We are using i7 6700K. As I mentioned also in the unboxing video and on previous videos when we went through the specs of this PC. One thing that I changed was in here. If we go to extreme memory profile, shortly XMP, I enabled profile 1, which was originally setting the memory multiplier to 26.67. However, if I would actually just leave it on 26.67 and restarted the machine, the BIOS itself started complaining that there is some system corruption, or I don't really remember how it was mentioned in the error report, but I figured out that it is the multiplier of the memory, because the base clocking of the memory is 2133. So I just rounded down to 26, which is 2600 megahertz, just to avoid this problem with the BIOS itself, and it's working just fine. Also in the Clover configuration, the memories are assigned to 2600, so we are pretty much fine. Then any miscellaneous settings, nothing there. If we just go quickly, system information, nothing here. BIOS features. So we have the boot option entries. We can see that there is one extra, which is the patch rate memory. That is the USB key that I'll be booting Linux from. Security option, system, full screen, that doesn't really matter. What you want to do is to disable the fast boot. Windows 8 or 10 features, set it to Windows 8, 10 VHQL, CSM support enabled, LAMP-PXE boot option, we don't need that, so we can disable that. Then, because we will be booting the Clover bootloader through UEFI only, we want to set this to UEFI only, so we don't have extra entries on the boot. Network stack disabled, no speed, doesn't really matter. Now go to peripherals. Platform trust technology can stay disabled. Initial display output, we are using the PCI Express 16, which is the PCI Express 1 slot on the board, and we are currently connecting through the NVIDIA to the screen through DisplayPort. Onboard LAN controller, yes, we want to use that, of course. Audio LED, just personal preference. Legacy USB support, we also want to enable those. XHCI handoff, we want to enable this. Then we have serial port. This you want to disable because it will cause kernel panics or any similar problems with actually getting into the OS X. BIOS guard, that can stay. Now in the SATA controllers, I did not test the RAID settings. I'm just sticking with AHCI because all of the hard drives that are not booted from will be used for data storage or program storage or something like that, so we don't really want to extend those or made RAID configurations out of those. If we go to chipset, we want to disable the virtualization technology. this is important. It can also cause some kernel panics or any problems. Internal graphics that can stay on auto. Audio controller enabled. If you have older BIOS and you have the option to disable DSP, digital signal processing, disable it. I don't have this option here. I don't know why. The audio is working just fine. There were some issues with the iGain bug. I will explain this later when we will actually get to OSX, but the audio is working just fine. So you can disable it if you have the option. If you don't have the option, just don't pay attention to that. All of those enabled, and we are using the beta BIOS, so we can actually disable. Well, first of all, beta BIOSes have unlocked MSR. This enables us to disable I/O APIC from 24 to 119 entries, which is pretty much enabling us to avoid kernel panics again, and we don't have to use the patch or the text patch from Pike to actually enable this Skylake support. There is some explanation behind it why we actually have to use the patch from Pike. If you want to figure it out, just Google Pike APIC patch Skylake, and you can read his forum, read his page. I will also refer to him by the end of this video. So you want to disable this to actually be able to use OSX. Power management, pretty much what you want to enable is the platform power management and all of those entries, and that's pretty much it.